are here with Riley Green. We're here ahead of the Country Fest in North Lawrence, Ohio. And you said you played this festival before, right?
Yeah, I didn't really, I just recognized some things coming in, but the promoter told me this is our 4th year, so we're tied with Justin Moore for doing it the most time. So I guess we'll have to come back and do it one more.
Just to beat him, yeah?
Yeah.
How is it? I know you've been on your last rodeo tour. How is it playing arenas versus playing festivals? Do you have a preference, or?
It's definitely different. I mean, the biggest learning curve I've had was doing stadiums with Luke Combs last year. You know, that's such a big room. It's like to try to reach the people up in the top, you know, and the very highest seats is tough. You got to fill up a big stage, but arenas I've always kind of felt pretty comfortable in. We've done those arena tours for a few years now, and festivals are just the only hurdle you have is dealing with how drunk people can be by the time you get on stage if you play late enough. You know, it's like we talked about, this is 4 days of country music. People are pretty worn out by the last day.
Yeah, for sure. I know I am. But you were on tour with Tracy Lawrence. How was that? I think y'all just wrapped up that tour.
Yeah, Tracy was open for me on this Ain't My Last Rodeo tour. A girl named Ella Langley was on that tour.
Ella's great, yeah.
It was awesome, man. I'm such a big fan of Tracy and all that 90s country era, and he's got a lot of hits. It's cool to watch him play 45 minutes of hit songs.
Yeah, I was at Ascend for the Tracy Lawrence and Friends. I think we posted your duet when y'all did Time Marches On. That was really cool to see because that's just such a classic song.
Yeah, well, the only bad thing about having him on tour with me was I couldn't do any of his songs with him because he already played them all. Right. I think we did Should Have Been a Cowboy or something during my set, but Tracy's great, and that was a cool night at Ascend. That was a cool thing to do for CMA Fest. It kind of felt like we were somewhere else. You know? Yeah,
Tracy's just such a good guy. He had great things to say about you too.
Oh, he's great.
We asked him about it. So speaking of the last rodeo tour, and you just released last year you released your album Ain't My Last Rodeo, and I want to talk about the title song to that one for a second, just because that's your solo write and it's such a personal song. How does it feel writing such a personal song and then kind of putting it out into the world and seeing how it affects other people? Have you gotten a lot of reaction to that one?
Yeah, it comes really natural to me. When I started writing, you know, I was my early 20s or even late teens and in college, and I just did it kind of as a hobby. I never thought anybody would really hear the song. Sometimes I'd play them out at shows if somebody requested them, and then obviously when you go to record them, that's a little different. And Numbers on the Cars is one I wrote about my granddaddy and having Alzheimer's, and it was a really personal song. And I saw that one had one of those reactions from people where it wasn't a giant hit song by any means, but people that could relate to it or been through something like that really latched onto it. And I got a lot of fans from that. So I've always kind of tried to write about real life and things that I've learned in family, and it's always really gone over well with fans. They feel like they make my stories about their own life somehow, you know. And My Last Rodeo is kind of the same thing. It's a song about my granddaddy and kind of his last few weeks and something he told me. And it's you know, he passed away 2011, so it stayed with me a long time. I wrote the song last year.
Yeah. And another one that was a solo write for you was Jesus Saves, and that one was. It seems like whenever you get in a room by yourself, you just write the sad-ass country songs.
I think that's what I'm drawn to anyway. Man, I think that's something that's special about country music is the storytelling. You know, I think musically it can go a lot of different ways, and it certainly does, but that's what I don't want to see go away is the stories and trying to make somebody feel some kind of emotion. I thought that song had a really great message that you really don't know what somebody's been through.
Yeah. And is that one inspired by anything true, or did you just come up with that one? It's just
inspired by thoughts riding down the road. You know, I certainly seeing, you know, the same guy on the same street corner every time I passed in Nashville, Tennessee was what kind of gave me the idea. And the thought of trying to win over people driving by with just whatever you could fit on a piece of cardboard was pretty crazy to me. And trying to put it in a way that people could take it and hopefully be a little more compassionate and have understand that message in a good light, and I think it turned out great. It's really, really special song.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I like that one from that album. And another one that's really it seems like it's taken on a life on social media is Worst Way. Yeah. You knew what you were doing with that one, didn't you?
I don't know that I really knew to what extent I was doing it. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. I can have two songs I wrote by myself that are that far apart. You know, Jesus Saves and Worst Way. But man, I don't write a lot of love songs. I never really have, and it certainly seems to be something I need to do more of. I had a song I wrote years ago called When She Comes Home Tonight.
Yeah.
It was kind of that, sexier love song type thing, and it always did really well, still streams well today. So, thinking kind of what that song did that worked, I wanted to do something that was similar to that, and I had that title Worst Way and wrote it, and I could have never imagined what that song would turn out to be.
Yeah. You see all the TikToks and all that, like the women saying that they're calling their husbands, telling them we have to leave our kids at home.
Well, I don't have TikTok, but I've certainly heard.
There are a lot of videos. So you don't use TikTok at all?
No. I've got my social media guy helps me out with that. I quit with Instagram. That was the last thing I tried to learn how to use, and I think I almost have it, so I'm going to stop there.
That's kind of like Twitter's the one that we're the same age, so it was the big one kind of when I was getting into that, and then Instagram came along and it got popular, and I got kind of lost, and it's just TikTok's fun to scroll, but now it seems like there's so many artists who are getting their start from TikTok. It's just kind of crazy to see how you have a song go viral on TikTok and you've never played a show, but all of a sudden you have 100,000 million fans.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's obviously very useful to have these avenues of social media to be able to put music out and stay in contact with fans, especially during 2020, which I think probably made a lot of that stuff happen.
It was, yeah.
I just don't need another thing to be scrolling on my phone. I think I've got plenty already.
That. Yep. Well, Carl's really popular on Instagram. How did he become such a celebrity?
I think it's just because he's a weird, cute-looking dog, man. He's shaped strange. He's all ears and short legs, and his personality has a lot to do with it. He's a strange cat, man. I've had a lot of hunting dogs, labs. I never thought I would have a corgi. But he's a corgi blue heeler, and he's the star, man. Everybody shows up wondering where he's at.
Yeah, and that's what we asked when we got here. Yeah. How long have you had him?
So he's almost 2.
Okay.
I got him as a puppy, so I've had him for over a year now.
I've had him for a while, and he's become a star. So I want to talk a little bit about your current single too, Damn Good Day to Leave. That one seems to be doing really well. What's the reaction been to that? Do you have any? I know that was a co-write with, I think, Eric Dillon and maybe a couple others.
It was Eric Dillon and Nick Walsh and Jonathan Singleton.
Yeah.
A fun breakup song, if there is such a thing. I certainly have a lot of tear-jerking type songs, so it's cool to have something that's a little more lighthearted, and it was a fun song to write, really fun song to play live, and it's having a song on the radio, you can always see it kind of grow week by week.
Right.
So it's been fun to watch that.
Yeah. What's the reaction been like to that one now?
It's a jam, man. I mean, it's a beers in the air kind of song, and maybe even one of the guys sing a little louder than the girls. But you
probably don't have that with many of your songs, do you?
Well, it's certainly not Worst Way. It's the opposite of that.
Well, that's what I told her. You can write a song like that, and people are throwing bras at you. I sing a song like that, and I get a restraining order. So, you kind of have to.
Well, it's I'm learning what works, and it's a little bit out of my normal box to be writing love songs, but I'm certainly trying it.
How does it feel when you have all these girls that are throwing their bras and all that on stage?
I always think about my mom, because she monitors my social media pretty heavily, and she sees all the crazy comments and all this. Then I just think about my mom sees it, it's just like secondhand embarrassment, but she's been at the show. She sees all of it. She got a good sense of humor, and there's some wild folks out there, man. I'm glad they show up and come to the shows, but
I'm passionate.
I'm always surprised.
Yeah. So you've been teasing new music on social media. What do you have in store? I know you just released your EP not long ago.
Yeah, we're in the studio. I'm actually recording the last few songs on my next album this week, and we're gonna put some new music out in the fall.
So I know you've been 2018 is when you kind of came along, so you don't have a ton of albums, but are there songs that you have released that you had either wished that they'd been a bigger hit, or you recorded it thinking that it was going to be a massive hit and then it just never really took off like you thought it should have?
It's kind of the opposite. I mean, I had recorded 25 songs before I signed a record deal in 2018. I toured for 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
And I've got songs like Georgia Time, Bury Me in Dixie, and Outlaws Like Us. These songs that just kind of don't go away. When She Comes Home Tonight is another one that I recorded before I even had a record deal, and it just kind of changes your mindset on what's a hit. There was this girl who was my first number 1 on country radio. I Wish Grandpa's Never Died peaked at 11 on the country charts, but it's arguably the biggest song I have. Hell of a Way to Go is a giant song for me. Still streams outrageously well today. It's never been played on the radio once. So for me, a hit is a song that people sing in the crowd.
Right.
And I'm always surprised that there's pretty deep cuts that seem to be those songs.
Yeah. And that's what even Tracy was talking about when I was talking to him while back. Paint Me a Birmingham was never number one.
Yeah.
And it's still, obviously
To the fans, it was
classic. Yeah. That's his most famous song. He said it'll be his closer till he dies. And it was, so it's kind of, do you think it's harder now? And I guess, maybe since you got your start in the streaming era, but is it harder to kind of judge how a song's doing when you're not basing it on, album sales or even radio play?
It's never been hard for me because I see it every week. We played 3 or 4 shows a week for the last 15 years. So, that's how I always decided how I was going to write songs. I'd try something out and say, this line worked or this type of song works and that doesn't. And they'll let you know pretty quickly. I played I Wish Grandpa's Never Died for the first time in Georgia. And 2 weeks later, I headlined a festival in Virginia or West Virginia. And they sang every word to it. It wasn't even out. I didn't even record it. I had a different single at Country Radio. And it was like, they'll tell you what they like and what works. And, that's why I like to play so many new songs and shows. You kind of find out beforehand.
Well, we like it too, so we can post those videos and get content out of it. Do you go into the studio or write songs thinking about your live shows, or does it just kind of, do you try to build around what you have?
Yeah, you got to think about, sometimes I think about what's missing. Right. Sometimes I think about what I need more of. Most of the time, I'm just writing about things that have happened to me or something I'm passionate about. And sometimes you come up with a hook that you think is just a clever way to say something. So it rarely do I write a song the same way twice. And I think every song kind of has a different goal from the start. Right. But you certainly can't have people crying for 90 minutes at a show. So you got to find ways to write songs that are a little more up-tempo and happy. And, it's just trying to fill that 90-minute set and keep people interested and engaged. Yeah.
Going back to the whole arenas versus festivals, do you change up your set list? They need to be more high energy for festivals, or?
A little bit. That being said, I'm not that high energy anyway. So, I've always found that me coming out and sitting on a stool and playing I Wish Grandpa's Never Died or Hell of a Way to Go acoustic is the biggest moment in my set. Usually, the worst way is starting to rival that a little bit. But, so I don't try to steer too far away from kind of what's got me here. That's what worked. Yeah. I'm not really the dance around guy. Right. There's plenty of those out there, and I think my thing's more of trying to tell a story and trying to make somebody cry if I can.
Yeah. We saw you at Rock the South last year down in your home state. Yeah. And on that festival, I don't remember which day you played, but they had Cody Johnson and then Chris Stapleton right after. And it was just really interesting seeing the two different, they have completely different styles. Yeah. Cody's so high energy and Chris just stands there and sings like a motherfucker. Yeah. And so it's just interesting to see how different artists handle and play in different environments.
Well, I wish I could sing like Chris. I probably wouldn't take one step. I'd probably stand in him and George Strait, just stand in the exact same spot the whole show. Exactly. I unfortunately have to move around a little bit. Right. But, at the same time, I just think you kind of having blinders on in this industry is a little bit helpful just to kind of figure out what works for you and really stay focused on what the fans seem to be appreciating and liking and just try to do as much of that as you can.
And that's something we talk about all the time too, is just authenticity. Fans can see and are a lot smarter than a lot of times people give them credit for. And so they know that when you're trying to be somebody that you're not on stage. So you recently played Red Rocks, is that right?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago.
How was that? Is that kind of a bucket list show?
Yeah, we had a sold out show at Red Rocks. My first time going over there. It lives up to the hype. You always hear about that place, and it's pretty special. A lot of family and friends got to come up to that show. It was a little cold. I think it was like 35 when I went on stage, but the crowd was great. It was bigger than I thought. Right. I thought it was more like 5,000 or 6,000, but it's 10,000 seat. Right. Amphitheater, so it was cool. Yeah.
Are there any other venues or any other shows like that are on your bucket list that you want to cross off?
That was really like the one. Obviously doing the Ryman and some of those more like stuff. I've never done Bluebird. I always thought it'd be cool to go do a little acoustic show there. But man, I'm just glad people are still showing up.
Right. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap it up and let you get out and play your set here in a few minutes. Excited to see it. Appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Of course.